Hey guys, it's Hardy here to do a 9.0 Affliction Warlock guide. As always, I'm trying to grow this channel for Shadowlands, where I'm going to hopefully increase my content substantially. So if you do enjoy it or find it useful at all, subscribing would be awesome. And yeah, let's just get right into it. Before I start going into like the talents and essences and traits and stats and gear and all that, I first want to talk about like sort of the fundamental things that change with Affliction. And there's nothing too major. The biggest thing is that UA on Stable Affliction is no longer our spender. It is now back to how it used to be before Legion, where it was just a dot. And our new spender is called Malefic Rapture. It still costs one shard, similar to UA did. And it basically just sort of, I guess, erupts and does damage based on how many dots you have on the target. And it sort of just increases, based additively based on how many you have. So baseline it says it does 293 damage. If you have 5 dots on the target, it do close to 1500 damage, give or take around the number. Obviously increasing with stats and spell power ratios and all that good shit. But yeah, basically the biggest difference is that instead of spending UAs and spamming UAs, we're going to be spamming Malefic Rapture, and it is great because it helps our AoE and cleave a lot more, and it's overall a very beneficial change, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many warlocks. So that's pretty much the biggest thing, spell change wise. For Affliction specifically, I mean, we got curses and all that. They changed the way that pet works, no longer cast, but I mean, that's all just sort of arbitrary stuff that you don't really need to know that much, and you'll probably just learn it by playing it, or if you didn't already know it already. So with that being said, let's go into talents. I'm going to cover pretty much two different talent builds. I'm going to cover a sort of single target or just a few target raid build that you're going to run during pretty much most of the raid, except for a few fights. And then I'm going to cover a Mythic Plus build, which is pretty much the same as the build for like multi-target. So pretty much, to simplify it, there's a build for fights like Rathian and Mott and Raw Den. There's Gitra and all that, and then there's a build for your Hive Mind and your Vexiona and your Cleave and all that, and then Mythic Plus. So first I'm going to talk about that single target, sort of slight multi-target Cleave build, which is Drain Soul, Siphon Life, Burning Rush, Phantom Singularity, Mortal Coil, Haunt, and Dark Soul Misery. Drain Soul is currently being taken just because it's just better significantly than anything that Nightfall and Inevitable Demise does. The Execute is still the same as it used to be, just really nice to have. And it's basically just really nothing else to say is that besides the damage that you get from an Inevitable Demise and Nightfall doesn't beat the damage of Drain Soul, especially with the way it's skilled with pre-patch. So always go on Drain Soul whatever you do in content. For this build you're going to go Siphon Life. Like I said with Malefic Rapture, it increases based on the amount of dots that you have. So obviously if you add another dot, more damage from Malefic Rapture. Sounds great to me. This row doesn't matter, but you'll usually take Burning Rush. Defensive, you can go Demon Skin Dark Pact. This row, for this build, you're going to go Phantom Singularity. Same thing with Siphon Life. It's another dot. So either way, it was already our best single target talent, but now that we have sort of a dot ability, it's just that much better. This row doesn't matter. I take Mortal Coil because the heal is nice, and sometimes the Mythic Plus, having that little fear is nice, but Howl Terror and even Dark Fury in some cases are perfectly viable options depending on the situation that you are in. Haunt, take a guess, it's dot. It's the same thing, except it's also dot, and then it's also a best single target talent because of the permanent 10% damage you get. You should have 100% uptime on this dot, which means that you should have 100% increased Malefic Rapture damage. That's not what I mean. That came out wrong. You should have 100%. You should have an extra dot on your Malefic Rapture at all times, similar to like how Agony and Corruption and UA should always be up. It's just another dot that you can keep up alongside the 10% obvious damage that it does. So incredible talent for single target. Always take it. And then for this row, Dark Soul Misery, having that haste on in that window when you pair it with your burst, and especially with what I'm going to talk about in a minute with Blood the Enemy and all that, makes for a really strong opener and really strong bursts. One of the best burst classes in the game right now, if it wasn't already. So this is like our kind of single target raid build. Again, you'll run this on basically every fight, like you'll run on Rathian, Mott, if I can just name off the top of my head, Rathian, Mott, Skitra, Xanesh, Raden, Shadhar, Carapace, and then you can run on the Zoth or you can run the other build. The Zoth is kind of all over the place. You can do whatever you want with that. So yeah, most of the raid are doing this, and then for the fights that I didn't mention, like your Vexiona, your Hive Mind, your Drestagath, your Il'gynoth, you can run this build where it's Drain Soul, Absolute Corruption, Vile Taint, Dark Caller, and then either Soul Conduit or Dark Soul. You'll probably still run Dark Soul, but Soul Conduit is viable. Kind of just preference at that point. So just to explain this build real quick, Absolute Corruption is permanent corruption, which means that when you have multiple targets at all time, or if you have a lot of targets and you need to dot, it's just one less thing you need to worry about. Because if you have a fight like Il'gynoth is a good example where there's tons of bloods out all at the same time, there's no chance that you're going to be dotting all of them with Siphon Life. So it's very nice to be able to dot them with corruption and then get more agonies out without having to worry about reapplying corruption. And then you're just going to end up getting more Malefic Rapture damage passively. Plus, it also gives a baked-in increased damage on corruption, so awesome for cleave. Vile Taint is going to be a go-to for this build because it is also a dot, so it also affects Malefic Rapture, and it's better than Phantom Singularity in that regard because although Phantom Singularity does do AoE and it does a lot of AoE around the target, it still only counts as one dot on one target. So although you're going to be doing a good amount of AoE with ability, the amount that you get from Vile Taint's AoE alongside the fact that each target is going to have an individual extra dot, the Malefic Rapture damage is going to be so much higher, and this is way better. So Vexiona is a great example in my mind where you have sort of like a constant barrage of ads coming in that you can Vile Taint, Seed of Corruption, put a few agonies out maybe, and then to start spamming Malefic Rapture, and it feels really good. Again, this road doesn't matter. Dark Call, you go this build because similar to the Siphon Life problem, well, you can only keep Haunt up on one target. So it's already pretty much designed for single target alone. Also, just having the baseline a minute less on Dark Lair is huge because if you have a fight like Il'gynoth, going back to Il'gynoth for example, where you have tons of dots out, and then you have more Dark Lairs in the fight, then you're extending all of those dots. It's not just your single target that is getting extended. It's all the dots that you have out. All of those are getting extended. That's huge for your raptures. It's huge for your damage. So it's just really nice to have this. And then Dark Soul you can keep the same, but again, Soul Conduit is not a bad choice if you would prefer that. But the thing that makes Dark Soul so great with Dark Caller in Raid is that these two spells end up syncing together, and it just means that you're getting some really good bursts every 2 minutes, and it's really nice. Going on to the Mythic Plus build real quick. It's going to look pretty similar to this Cleave build. You're going to run Drain Soul, AC, Burning Rush, Vile Taint, Mortal Coil, Dark Caller. But then instead of Dark Soul Misery, you're going to be going Soul Conduit most of the time. Again, it's not unviable to run Dark Soul if you really prefer it that much. But in dungeons, the benefit that you're getting from Soul Conduit is massive. So, Soul Conduit is going to be the better play, but it's not so much of a difference that you can't run Dark Soul. So I want to say preference, but definitely everything else in this is pretty mandatory if you want to pump in Mythic Plus, Vile Taint, Dark Caller, AC. And yeah, that's all those builds for talents set up. So let's go back to our single target setup and talk about Azerite. The nice thing about Azerite with both these builds is that you're going to be running the same Azerite. You're going to want triple Racking Brilliance, which is just constant, well not constant, but periodic intellect procs based on your agony damage, or agony soul shard generation. Which is huge because intellect is back to being our best stats with the pre-patch and the stat squish and all that, so the more intellect the better. And then you're going to want triple Heart of Darkness, which is your secondary stats are all increased by 18 or whatever number depending on what item level your Azerite is. And that's huge because right now secondary stats are kind of in a weird spot where you don't want them to go past 30 because of the diminishing returns, but our mastery is so good right now for Affliction that if you have anything that can give you more mastery, you want to take it. Like, as you can see, I'm fully enchanted, fully gemmed, fully everything master right now. I don't have exactly the best static gear because I haven't put that much time into really worrying about that in pre-patch, but pretty much if you can get anything that has like mastery crit or mastery verse or even mastery haste, you want to take that because that is going to be your bread and butter for this pre-patch. So really simple, triple racking brilliance, triple heart of darkness. You have to get this trait from the raid, which might be annoying for some people, especially if they just do Mythic Plus, but it's whatever. It's still WoW. It's like should be used to it at this point. This helmet's from Nazoth, this shoulder's from Carapace, and this chest is from Skitra. So if you want the perfect build, just get those 3 bosses and you'll be set. Touching on essences real quick, in both Mythic Plus and single target, we're running Blade the Enemy Major. Now, in single target for like specifically, if you think it's really annoying to be in melee, especially at the start of a fight, you can run Condensed Life Force Major. It's really not that giant of a difference. I think it was something like 80 to 100 DPS difference between this and Blade the Enemy. So if you really hate, like if you really detest going into melee and hitting Blade the Enemy on like a raid boss fight, like Rathian for example, like where it's a single target, you can go Condensed Life Force, but if you really want to do the maximum damage, Blade the Enemy is the play. And then in Mythic Plus, especially Blade the Enemy is the play, because it's just huge, especially when you're hitting multiple targets. It's such a big deal. And then for Mythic Plus and Raid, you're pretty much always going Crucible of Flame, since it's just super overtuned right now damage-wise. Confident Strife, because the passive verse and the amount that you get from it is really nice. And then you can either go Breath of the Dying or Memory, just kind of preference. Memory might be better for dungeons, but it just kind of depends on what you like doing for that Soul Shard gen, which means more Raptures and all that great stuff. We can talk about stats real quick. Stats, you want to be pretty much anywhere, like it's just about the same for Raid and Mythic Plus. For both, you want to be around 30% crit. I would probably say anywhere from like 26 to 30% crit. If you're in that range, you're good. Haste, same kind of thing. You want to be below 30% haste, but also above like 24, 25% haste. You don't want to have too low, but you also don't want to go above 30. That's the biggest thing. Mastery, you want basically as much as you can get. Anywhere from like 90 to 100% mastery is going to be great for you. A good rule of thumb is more mastery is better. And then verse, anywhere from 5 to 10% verse will be good for you. It's a good stat. Good to have a lot of it, but not a ton, because that means you're having less mastery, which is not what you want. So that's stats, really simple. Again, you can sim stat weights and all that if you are totally confused on how that works. Touching on trinkets real quick. We're using the High Point Compendium of Storms just because it's so overskilled right now in pre-patch. The amount of haste it gives you is crazy compared to like a trinket like Vita, which has main stat haste, which is not what we want. We want that main stat int. The more int, the better. And it just also gives you more constant haste, so it's just better than Vita. If you don't feel like spending anywhere from like 2,000 to 5,000 gold, depending on your server on this, then you can just get a Vita, but if it's really cheap, so I would just recommend buying this. And then for the other trinket, we're using a Manifesto. The crit and verse is extremely good, especially for your burst with that huge amount of crit if you can get away from people. Really nice, really good. I'm still socketed haste for some reason. I need to change that. But yeah. Manifesto and Compendium. Both of the go-to trinkets really good. Really simple, really easy. I think that just about covers everything for that. I don't think I was going to say anything else in regards to trinkets, but or stats. I'm trying to think. I think we're good. Again, if I'm missing anything, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in game or in the comments. I will be hopefully very responsive to stuff like that. Just to cover a quick rotation priority, if you played before pre-patch, the rotation is pretty much the same, except instead of spamming UA, you're going to be spamming Malefic Rapture on single target. It's just going to be maintaining your dots, and then yeah, and then just spamming Malefic Raptures when you have your maximum amount of dots up. Pretty much, I would do the opener super quick. You're going to want to precast Haunt into UA, drums if not, into Agony, into Corruption, the Siphon Life, and the Phantom Singularity. You would Dark Soul here, but I don't have it talented. And then you'd Manifesto, Dark Glare, Blade the enemy in melee, and then just spam your Raptures. Keep Haunt up at all times, keep UA up at all times, Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, all those. The only dot that you can't keep up at all times is Phantom Singularity because it's on a cooldown, obviously. And then you want to do a Drainer, or a Filler Drain Soul. And then, yeah, it's super simple on single target, really easy. Just maintain dots, Malefic Rapture whenever you can. Try to pull your Malefic Raptures until you have your Phantom Singularity up for the maximum amount of dots. So, like, right now I have 2 shards. I could use 2 Malefic Raptures, but there's 0 reason to. Because I can just wait till Phantom Singularity's up in 2 seconds. And then get, whatever amount, like 236%, or 236 more damage on every single cast. So it's just min-maxing that. Dump your shards when you have Phantom Singularity on it, and then you're just back to using Drain Soul as your filler, and then maintain dots. Super easy on single targets. On single target, nothing hard about it. You can just practice on dummy if you're not confident about it. Just make sure you're not capping shards, and make sure you're trying to utilize your shards in a window when you have the most amount of dots on the target. Now AoE is also pretty black and white, pretty simple. I want to get out of combat here. I'm not going to wait for Dark Glare and stuff. I'm just going to go Dark Soul and change my talents up a little bit. Valtane, Dark Collar. Okay, I will wait for that, I guess. But, nice. So, this is 4 targets, pretending it's 4 targets. You're going to want to open, assuming you already have shards, you're going to want to open up with a Seed into a Vile Taint. The Vile Taint will proc your Seed, and then you'll just want to Agony up everything. Dark Soul if you have it, you can Blood if you have it, use your Trinket, and then just spam your Link Raptures before that Vile Taint's over, and you'll do a lot of damage. If that was 4 targets, and if it's a lot of targets, if it's like 8 targets, you're not going to Agony everything, because it's not worth all those globals. You'll just Seed, Vile Taint, maybe Agony once or twice, and then to start Rapturing, but you want to keep up UA on your main target once, you know, all the heat of the burst AoE is over, and then you're just going to maintain dots, obviously, and then everything will die. You want to snipe your Drain Soul on targets that are dying to get free shards. And yeah, super simple stuff. Really easy. Not saying that Destro is hard, but I think AF is much easier in regards to, like, really sort of min-maxing the amount of damage you can do in a fight. And then, yeah. That's about it for rotation and priority. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments or in game. Don't forget to subscribe because I do plan on doing a lot more content in Shadowlands, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with all that. So, besides that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned some stuff if you were looking to learn how to play Affliction Lock. And enjoy Hepland. It's a really fun spec. I think they did really great things, and I'm looking forward to how it's going to look in Shadowlands with sort of all the extra stuff with soulbinds and conduits and legendaries. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm optimistic. But yeah, have a great day, guys. Enjoy.